They left us to die. My own family drove away while my 10-year-old daughter and I slept, believing we were surrounded by love. When we woke to find ourselves abandoned in the Olympic National Forest, I realized that sometimes the most dangerous predators wear familiar faces. My name is Sarah Miller, and this is how I died in those woods and was reborn as someone who would never again mistake cruelty for caring. 3 months earlier, my husband Sam lost his battle with liver cancer. We had built a successful restaurant chain together, Sam the dreamer sketching menu ideas while I handled business operations. When doctors delivered their devastating diagnosis, half my soul was ripped away. At Sam's funeral, my half-brother Jackson Thorne approached in his expensive suit, perfectly styled despite the October drizzle. His wife Tiffany stood beside him in designer heels, both wearing practice sympathy like masks. "Sarah, you need to think practically now," Jackson said, his hand heavy on my shoulder. "Running those restaurants is huge responsibility, and in your state," his eyes were already calculating. Behind them stood my mother, Eleanor, and stepfather, Richard Peterson. Eleanor wrung her hands nervously, the way she always did around Jackson. They both deferred to him in family matters, despite him being younger. "We just want to help," Tiffany added smoothly. "You shouldn't worry about business decisions right now. Focus on grieving and healing." I should have recognized the predatory gleam in their eyes, should have questioned Jackson's detailed knowledge of our operations and insurance policies. Instead, drowning in grief, I was grateful someone wanted to shoulder the burden. "Let me handle day-to-day operations for a few months," Jackson offered. "I have restaurant management experience from my consulting work." What I didn't know was that Jackson had been studying our business for years, waiting for this opportunity. He had charmed Sam during family dinners, asking innocent questions about suppliers, profit margins, expansion plans. I thought he was just making conversation. The following weeks passed in a haze of legal meetings and paperwork. Jackson presented himself as my savior, handling details I was too drained to manage. He brought documents to sign, explaining them confidently, while I nodded along, trusting that family would never betray family. Eleanor suggested the camping trip during one family dinner, her voice barely audible. "Sarah, darling, you look so tired. Maybe you and Lily need a change of scenery?" Lily perked up from pushing food around her plate. "Mom, remember how Dad talked about Olympic National Park? He said it was the most beautiful place in Washington." The memory hit like a physical blow. Sam had promised to take us there for our anniversary, the trip he would never take. "That's wonderful," Jackson said enthusiastically. "Fresh air, no business calls, just you and Lily reconnecting with nature. We'll all go together, make it a family bonding experience." I should have been suspicious of their sudden interest in outdoor activities. Jackson and Tiffany weren't the camping type. She complained about chipped manicures. He considered hotels without room service, roughing it. But grief clouded my judgment. The drive to Olympic National Park took 6 hours through dense forests. Jackson drove the lead SUV loaded with gear, while Richard followed with additional supplies. The campground was remote, accessible only by narrow dirt road branching off the main highway. Ancient Douglas firs towered above us, creating a canopy so thick only scattered sunbeams reached the forest floor. A crystalline lake stretched beyond our campsite, its surface mirror still reflecting surrounding mountains. That evening, we roasted marshmallows and told stories under brilliant stars. Lily curled against me on a log as Jackson regaled us with college camping tales. For the first time since Sam's death, I felt approaching peace. "Thank you," I whispered to Jackson as the fire died to glowing embers. "This is exactly what we needed." He smiled, but something in his expression made me shiver. "That's what family is for, Sarah." The next morning, Lily and I rose early to watch sunrise over the lake. We sat sharing granola bars and hot chocolate, both thinking of Sam and how he would have loved this moment. When we returned around 8 o'clock, expecting to find others preparing breakfast, we found empty space where 5 tents had stood. No vehicles, no gear, no people. Even the fire pit was cleaned out. Lily found the note on the picnic table, weighted with a stone. In Jackson's handwriting, "This is for the best. Trust me, Jackson. Jax." I read it 3 times before its meaning penetrated my shock. They had left us. Deliberately, consciously, callously abandoned us with nothing but our tent contents and the clothes we wore. "Mom, where did everyone go?" Lily's voice was small and frightened. I stared at the note, hands shaking violently. The betrayal hid in waves. This was planned. They brought us here specifically to abandon us, staging our disappearance to look accidental. "We're going to be okay," I lied, pulling Lily close. "We're going to figure this out." As reality sank in, puzzle pieces fell into place. Jackson's sudden business interest, his insistence on handling camping arrangements, Tiffany's careful insurance questions, the remote location. They wanted us dead, specifically in a way that looked accidental, leaving Jackson free to claim restaurants and insurance money. But they underestimated me. The first day was pure survival. I inventoried our supplies: tent, sleeping bags, small camp stove with 1 fuel canister, energy bars, one water bottle, and our clothes. Not much, but something. I remembered wilderness safety fragments from a course Sam and I took years earlier. Find water, shelter, food, create rescue signals, stay calm and think rationally. The lake provided fresh water, which I boiled carefully. I gathered pine needles for vitamin C tea, found edible plants and berries near the shoreline. Lily was frightened but tried being brave. I told her we were on an adventure, like survival stories her father read at bedtime. We would show everyone how strong and smart we were. On the second day, I discovered an abandoned ranger station half a mile away. The building was partially collapsed, unused for years, but inside I found something that changed everything. A yellowed newspaper from 3 weeks earlier. The headline made my blood run cold. Local restaurant owner and daughter missing in Olympic National Forest. Below was our photo from Sam's funeral. The article described how Jackson Thorne, my devoted half-brother, worked tirelessly with authorities to find us. Jackson had reported us missing when we failed to return from our planned camping trip, claiming worry when we didn't respond to calls. The article detailed our unstable emotional state following Sam's death, quoting Jackson's concerns about my erratic behavior and dangerous decision to take my daughter into wilderness alone. A masterful performance. Jackson created a narrative where I was a grieving widow making poor decisions leading to tragedy. When our bodies were found, he would be the sympathetic survivor carrying on our business legacy. A smaller article announced Jackson's appointment as interim manager of Miller Restaurant Group, pending resolution of the family's crisis. He was already taking control. The rage filling me was unlike anything I'd experienced. It burned through my veins like molten metal, transforming grief and confusion into something harder, more focused. They hadn't only tried killing us, they were capitalizing on our supposed deaths. Looking at sleeping Lily, I made a vow that would sustain me through dark days ahead. We would survive. We would expose their betrayal. We would make them pay for every moment of fear inflicted on my daughter. I began creating rescue signals using rocks and branches, constructing a large help message visible from air. I gathered green boughs for smoke signals, lighting small fires when smoke would be most visible against blue sky. For 5 more days, we subsisted on berries, plants, and occasional fish caught using improvised methods. Lily grew thinner but never complained, her resilience shining through hardship. On the 10th day, a rescue helicopter spotted our signals. The pilot said it was Lily's bright red jacket, hung from a tall pine, that caught his attention during routine patrol. As we were airlifted to the nearest hospital, I felt no relief, only grim satisfaction. The first phase was complete. Now came the harder part, proving truth and seeking justice. At the hospital, Jackson and Tiffany arrived within hours, playing their roles perfectly. Jackson rushed to my bedside with tears, expressing overwhelming relief and gratitude. "Sarah, thank God," he said, gripping my hand with apparent genuine emotion. "We've been searching everywhere. When you didn't return from your hike that first day, we immediately contacted rangers. We've had search teams out over a week." The lie was so smooth, perfectly delivered, I might have believed it if I hadn't known truth. Tiffany dabbed her eyes with tissue, the picture of concerned sister-in-law. "I remember everything," I said quietly, meeting his eyes and seeing the challenge there. He was daring me to contradict his version, confident no one would believe my word against his narrative. Detective Alex Stone investigated our case. When he interviewed me alone, I made the decision determining everything that followed. I told him the truth, all of it. Stone listened without interruption as I laid out the entire conspiracy. Jackson positioning himself for business control, the convenient camping trip to remote location, the note, the newspaper article revealing his narrative manipulation. "These are serious accusations," Stone said when I finished. "You're claiming your family attempted murdering you and your daughter for financial gain." "I'm stating it as fact," I said firmly. Over following weeks, Stone conducted thorough investigation. Camping permits purchased using false names, paid with cash. Security footage showed Jackson and Richard removing equipment after the time they claimed, realizing we were missing. Most damning, Jackson's phone records showed contact with lawyers and insurance companies the day after our supposed disappearance, inquiring about claiming death benefits without bodies. I contacted lawyer Ben Carter, who specialized in family law and white-collar crime. Ben was outraged and agreed representing us in what would become complex legal battle. The turning point came when Stone arrested Jackson's lawyer on fraud and conspiracy charges. Faced with losing his license and prison time, he cooperated with prosecutors for reduced sentence. His testimony revealed the conspiracy's full scope. Jackson had inquired about inheriting businesses when owners died without succession plans. After Sam's diagnosis, conversations became specific and urgent. Most shocking, Jackson had taken life insurance policies on Lily and me without our knowledge, forging signatures using his temporary business manager position. When arrests came, I watched from courthouse steps as Jackson, Tiffany, Eleanor, and Richard were led away in handcuffs. Jackson's composure finally cracked as reporters shouted questions. "This is a witch hunt," he screamed. "Sarah is unstable. She's making this up because she can't handle truth about her failures." The trial lasted 3 months. Jackson's defense painted me as unreliable witness whose grief distorted perception. They argued the camping trip was genuine healing attempt, and we became separated due to unfortunate misunderstandings. But Ben systematically dismantled their arguments with evidence and testimony: forged insurance documents, suspicious business takeover timeline, false camping permit identity, phone records showing premature insurance contact. When I testified, the courtroom was silent except for reporters' pens and jurors' quiet sobs. I spoke clearly, detailing every betrayal aspect and our survival struggle. "They left a 10-year-old child to die for money," I said, looking directly at Jackson. "They abandoned us like garbage and went home to steal our life's work. That greed and cruelty is beyond my ability to forgive." Lily also testified about our forest experience. Her simple, honest account of fear and confusion was devastating. The jury deliberated less than 4 hours. Jackson was convicted of attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, and child endangerment. Tiffany received lesser sentence as accomplice. Eleanor and Richard got probation for cooperation. Jackson's sentencing provided final vindication. The disgusted judge delivered scathing rebuke before announcing 25 years without parole for 15 years. As Jackson was led away, he turned for one last look. "You think you've won, but this will follow you forever. No one will trust you again." I stood slowly. "You're wrong, Jackson. I've already won. I'm alive, my daughter's alive, and we're stronger than ever. You have nothing left to take." The civil trial awarded us $15 million, bankrupting Jackson and Tiffany. More importantly, we regained complete business control. During legal proceedings, I worked with management to rebuild and expand operations. The restaurants thrived under renewed leadership, partly due to publicity, but mostly because of passion and determination I brought to work. Each new location felt like another victory over those who tried destroying us. 2 years later, Lily and I returned to the same campground with Detective Stone and Ben Carter, both now close friends. The forest looked different, less threatening and more beautiful. I saw it as where I discovered my strength rather than where I nearly died. "Are you okay being here, Mom?" Lily asked at the water's edge. She was taller, more mature, but still the optimistic girl her father raised. "I'm perfect," I said, meaning it completely. "This is where we learned we could survive anything together. This is where we became who we were meant to be." That evening, preparing to leave and return to our new life, I felt profound closure. The scared, grieving woman abandoned here no longer existed. In her place was someone who learned that survival isn't just staying alive, it's refusing to let others define your worth or determine your future. Jackson tried erasing us for his gain, but we returned stronger and more determined. Our restaurants continued growing. Lily excelled in school, developing into a confident young woman understanding both worlds' cruelty and kindness. I found love again with Detective Stone, whose steadfast justice pursuit helped save our lives. Our relationship grew slowly, built on mutual respect rather than desperation. Alex understood I would never again be someone who could be manipulated, and he loved me for exactly that strength. Sometimes people ask if I can forgive Jackson and the others. Honest answer is forgiveness implies they deserve something I'm not required to give. What I've found is indifference. They no longer have power to cause pain or influence happiness. The most important lesson I share in speeches and conversations: no one has the right to define your worth or determine your future. When someone shows who they really are through actions, believe them. Never underestimate your ability to survive, adapt, and triumph over those wishing you harm. 3 years have passed since that dark forest night, when I thought our story might end in tragedy. Instead, it marked the beginning of the most authentic and powerful chapter of our lives. Jackson may have tried writing our obituary, but Lily and I are still writing our story, and it's far from finished.